This is a presentation by Samantha Buckley for EDC1200, How Might Education Mediate Difference and Dominance? Australia Day. We look at the media articles about Australia Day. Should Australia Day celebrations be about pride or shame? Pride because we live in a lucky country that is surrounded by beaches and people who take pride in being Australian with their laid-back lifestyle and it's alright attitude. Australia Day to most people is about throwing sausages on the barbecue or playing backyard cricket. Saussure states that it is significant to do this, that we make attachments to monuments, human-made or natural, or events to act as signifiers of Australian identity. Or shame because we have taken away the culture and identity of the first Australians, the Indigenous people. Every Australia Day it seems someone decides to raise the issue of racism within Australia. There will always be a small minority who believe that race is determined by the colour of your skin or your origin of birth, but the majority believe that multiculturalism is what makes Australia unique. Australia Day celebrations do provoke a lot of talk about Invasion Day. Indigenous people have a different opinion of what Australia Day means to them. They believe that this was when white people invaded their land and they gradually lost their culture and identity. Invasion Day, as some Indigenous people call it, has become a day when they review how white people have changed their way of life and whether it was for the good or the bad. Australia Day has now become a day for when people look at the differences of race in the Australian environment and decide whether they are too different to be called a true Australian. This mentality breeds racism and makes people think that they have to gain admission before they can identify as being an Australian. Australia Day celebrations then become a racist debate instead of celebrating our diversity of cultures as a nation. Living in Australia and celebrating the many different cultures within Australia gives people a sense of belonging, a home that they have constructed as a special place, a place that is free of judgment and acceptance of difference. We as educators need to acknowledge that in every classroom there will be difference and diversity within our students, and to embrace these differences and diversity and incorporate them into our teaching. Inquiry-based learning can be used to investigate Australia Day and all the different notions and opinions that it stirs up. The students will be asked to brainstorm what students know about Australia Day, expressing their thoughts and their own understandings. This could be directed to a Year 7 or 8 level. To incorporate their understandings of Invasion Day, it could be that another lower class in the school, a grade 1-2 class, could come up and just take over their classroom for the day and come in and take their classroom, and the Year 7, 6, 7, 8 level would have to leave, and it would incorporate to them how lost they would feel when they actually didn't have a home or a classroom to go to. A Y chart will then be used to find out what the students know about Australia Day. What does Australia Day look like, feel like, and sound like to them, their understandings of this. From these ideas, students will be told to think about Australia Day and what it means to them. Students will be then instructed to compare. Why are we proud of Australia Day? And why do you think we are ashamed of Australia Day? This will become a formal debate that will integrate a literacy element into the students' learning. Students will then be directed to come up with a marketing idea that will come up with strategies to market a new Australia Day, one that will show cultural diversity and inclusion for all. I would hope to draw out an awareness in my students that the way we celebrate Australia Day is not reflective of the culture and identity of all Australians. Australia Day makes our students recognise how their own cultural background is not celebrated and can analyse why their own cultures are not celebrated in Australia on Australia Day. This teaching prepares our students to view the community in which they are living and helps our students to develop a sense of self while engaging their own ideas of difference. This will lead to a better understanding of how Australia Day could include everyone, being that Australia is a multicultural nation. As a transformative educator, I would promote to the students to understand that it is not just about celebrations of the English landing. It is celebrating Australia's diversity and including marginalised groups in our celebrations. So for example, on Australia Day, Maoris should be able to do the haka on Australia Day to incorporate their own culture in our celebrations. To reduce discrimination in the community and to incorporate it into our teaching, the students will be encouraged to come up with a marketing strategy that could be employed in the community to acknowledge all the different cultural groups, therefore reducing discrimination and giving people a better understanding of difference. There is a list of resources that can be used on the QSA website for teachers, and this can be used as a general starting point for teachers to gain a better understanding of Indigenous perspective. Thank you for viewing my YouTube page.